Hey Forensic Science, Mr. Stolatano here. This lecture is going to be lecture 6.4. It's the lesson on the testing that we do for the materials we've collected from the arson scene to figure out exactly what accelerants are present. So we're going to be looking at presumptive testing and other types of confirmatory testing. So the lab analysis, we're picking up where we left off from the last video lesson. First thing we want to be aware of is something called a presumptive test. Now, presumptive tests don't only apply to arson. It's just the general term for a test that gives you a single indicator, or in other words, a simple yes or no. In other words, is a simple positive negative. So the rapid COVID test, for example, is a presumptive test. It's a relatively simplified way. It gives you a yes or no. We know it's possible for there to be a false positive or false negative. The point is we're not getting a lot of detail. It's just giving us usually there'll be like some kind of color change or some indicator with this test that says yes, this thing is present, positive, or no, it's not present, negative type thing. We have other more definitive tests though, and definitive we're being definite, right? These other tests will actually tell us precisely what's in there and beyond a shadow of a doubt. It won't be like, do we necessarily have a false positive? Which doesn't always happen in presumptive tests either, right? Most times presumptive tests work pretty well. But a definitive test is going to tell you definitively, these are the exact components that are in this mixture. These are the exact chemicals. It's not just a simple, was it there or not type thing. It's like, oh, it was there and that was there and it's everything. So one of those is called gas chromatography. And the other one is called mass spectrometry, or mass spec is how scientists typically refer to it. So how do you collect the sample? Well, remember that you've taken at this point some of the materials from the scene. So you've found a spot where you suspect there's accelerant present. You might have even done a presumptive test at the scene in order to tell whether you suspect the accelerant is present or not. And now you want to do a more detailed definitive test to confirm your suspicion and also find out exactly what's in there. So you've got your debris from the scene, usually pretty burnt up at this point, right? Not all the accelerant will have burnt away per se. A lot of times there's still some left, so that's useful for your analysis. So the way we extract that is we simply collect the burn materials from the scene, put them in a vial, and when we heat the vial, that's going to take those chemicals, which we know accelerants are really volatile, right? They vaporize really easily. So simple light heating will cause them to leave the solid behind, and just the gas will appear at the top in the headspace that we've left behind. So you got to leave headspace in that vial for this to work, and so we use a gas syringe to extract the gas out of there so that we can analyze it. We only care about the gases, which tend to be the accelerant molecules. Okay, so then let's take a look at this. So this is our gas chromatography machine. It's enormous, right? Also very expensive. You don't just have one of these lying around, which is another reason you may want to first use the presumptive test. So maybe you've got your cheaper presumptive test, portable, much more portable than this, right? Maybe you have that to do an initial analysis before you bother bringing in the big guns to run the analysis on the full GC machine, the first gas chromatography machine. So how does this work exactly? Chromatography in general is a separation technique. In other words, it's kind of like filtration. Only in this case we're just doing it with gases, so it's kind of like a Brita for gases. So what happens is the mixture, almost every time you're going to have a mixture of gases, right? It's not going to be a plain, simple, perfect, just one chemical present in the gases. It's going to be a mixture of them. And they run through a special column in the gas chromatography device, and they come out in a certain order as they go through. So some of the gases, depending on their chemical properties, will go faster through the filtration column, and some of them will go slower. So what we're looking at here is we've got a mixture of A, B, C, D, and E, and this is the chromatograph that came out afterwards, the chromatogram, and it's essentially showing how fast it came out. So we can see that A actually came out, the time in minutes down here is how long it took it to pass through the column, so A went first, B came next, C came next, D came next, and then E came after that. And not only that, but the peaks also tell you relatively how much of that chemical was present. So we didn't have a lot of D present, but we had much more of A, B, C, and E. So that's how it works. So let's kind of look at a visual of that. So this is our column that all of the mixture of gases will be passing through. So you'll notice several different colored spheres that each one represents its own chemical. and they're all going to be passing through at the same time, but some of them you'll notice will come through faster than others. And the compound names are listed on the right. Each one's its own chemical, like we're saying. And initially they're all together in the mixture, and then as we go along further they really begin to separate until eventually they do pass through the column and they get the machine reads them as they come through. So we notice the methprylon has come through first, and there's apparently quite a bit of it because the peak's pretty tall. But yeah, that came through first, and then the next chemical, the butyl came through next, and we're just seeing that the graph is talking about the order that they came through. So those peaks will appear, x-axis is the time, how long it took to come through there. So the bigger idea here is that every time you have a certain mixture, it's going to create this special signature depending on what chemicals are present. And you can match that to a known graph that you have if you've seen this mixture before, and you can confirm, okay, yes, this is gasoline, or this is some other mixture of accelerants that we've dealt with before, this is what's in there. It's a definitive test to tell you exactly what's in there. So if we look at these peaks, that's what we're seeing, and then we would compare this to our known graphs that we have, some of our known chromatograms, and be able to identify exactly what mixture is present. Okay, so let's head back and look at the other definitive type of test. So that was gas chromatography. Again, it's just a separation technique. Mass spectrometry, or mass spec, is more of just a complete analysis technique. We're analyzing the accelerants present, and again, it's telling us exactly which ones are present. So each chemical will have its very unique spectrograph. In other words, the graph appearing will be unique to that chemical. So every time we run carbon dioxide through the system, it will look like this. Every time we do propane, it will look like this. Cyclopropane will also look like that as we run it through the system. So if we don't know what we have, but it looks just like this, like exactly like this, so we can say, yeah, that's definitely carbon dioxide. So mass spec is going to tell us exactly what chemical is present. So how does that work? And we don't want to go into too much detail, but just to give you a little bit of background, essentially we take the chemical, in this case it's acetone, which is nail polish remover, right? So perfect example because very volatile, very flammable. And we fire electrons at that chemical. So let's say you have a whole bunch of molecules of this. And as you bombard it with those electrons, it's going to break it apart into little pieces. And each of these lines actually represents a piece of that same chemical that broke off. So maybe a CH3 broke off over here. And maybe the O with the C and CH3, the other part broke off here. And then maybe most of the molecules stayed intact with like one electron being bumped off here. But that's the point, is that this is going to be a definitive test. Every time we have acetone, the graph will look precisely like this, and we can say, yep, that's the signature of acetone. It's like a fingerprint for both gas chromatography and for mass spec. These are like the fingerprints of the chemicals that are going to be appearing the same exact way every time you come across that chemical, and you'll be able to match them to a list of the ones that you have that are known. So we'll just check the list. Okay, this is what acetone looks like. That looks like, yep, definitely acetone type thing. So again, our definitive tests are going to tell you exactly what's present, all the chemicals. Presumptive test is going to be a simple yes or no on only one type of chemical at a time. Okay, and the last part is that usually GC and mass spec are used one after the other. So remember that GC is a separation technique. That will be used to separate the gases, and then the mass spec will be used to analyze them after they've come through. So let's take a look at that.
Gas chromatography mass spectrometry, or GCMS, is an instrument that allows us to separate individual components in an essential oil according to its volatility and mass. By analyzing essential oils compounds, a trained chemist can identify whether or not the oil is pure. While there are many factors that go into analyzing an essential oil for authentication, as of now, GCMS is the gold standard for determining purity in essential oils. So, let's dive into the science behind how a GCMS instrument runs a sample. First, a qualified chemist will inject a previously prepared sample into the injection port of the GCMS. The injection port is heated to a point where the sample vaporizes immediately and is passed through a column with the help of an inert carrier gas. The column provides a surface for compounds to interact. It allows the components to slow so that separation can occur. The column is made of various different affinities depending on the polarity and type of compounds you are wanting to separate. As the vaporized essential oil passes through the column, the oven where the column resides gradually increases in temperature through a pre-programmed method. When the compounds reach the end of the column, they hit a detector. Proportional peaks of each chemical component are recorded on a chromatogram. The height and area of each peak is directly proportional to the concentration of the compound within the sample. After the molecules pass through the GC column, they are hit with 70 electron volts, which causes the molecules to break into positively charged unique fragments called cations. The ions then travel through an electromagnetic field that filters them based on their mass. The detector then amplifies and counts each number of ions associated with the specific mass of the fragment. That information is sent to a computer where a mass spectrum is created. The spectrum shows each individual component within the sample, which provides the blueprint of its chemical identity.
Okay, so just like she was saying, you take your sample from the scene, right? Your accelerant, you put it in here. As it vaporizes, it passes through the column where it's separated. So the column essentially slows it down, so it gets separated, and then it runs through, and the mass spectrometer does the analysis on it and spits out this graph at the end. So that's it for the tests for our accelerants, and see you guys in class.